Hello fellow Chimera and Sonic Brian here, and welcome to Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Showdown Story Explained, where I'm about to explain the full story of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Showdown. This will even include the events of Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 8 OG, Fortnite Save the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest map, the Elite's Stronghold. So without further ado, grab some snacks and drinks of where we can find, kick back and relax, and enjoy the full story explanation of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Showdown. So after the Dark Voyager brought 3 0-point shards out of 0-point portals, including pieces of different realities to the Golden Coast, one of these locations being Frigid Fortress, ruled by the Exalted Ice King, an alternate version of the original Ice King back in Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 7 OG. And the Exalted Ice King was then approached by the Dark Voyager, and then they made their alliance. After finding out the Dark Voyager and the Exalted Ice King made an alliance, Hope, Jones, the Order, and the Visitor Reality Unknown then began their search for the Foundation, which led them to Frigid Fortress. It is revealed that the Exalted Ice King has captured the Foundation, but unbeknownst to the Exalted Ice King, the Foundation used the heat generator from his suit to escape captivity, and escape Frigid Fortress, and then reunite with Hope and Jones, alongside meeting some new recruits such as Hope and an alternate version of the Visitor known as the Visitor Reality Unknown. After when the Foundation was catch up to speed at Classified Canyon, the Exalted Ice King wasn't happy that his prize trophy has escaped, and the showdown between Team Foundation and Team Exalted Ice King has officially begun. So we were contacted by the Order, who wants us to help the Foundation to connect to the 7 secure server at a 7 outpost at the new 7 base, New Sanctuary, a modified and upgraded version of Classified Canyon thanks to the Order and Hope. And after heading to a 7 outpost and interacting with the holotable, the Order then says the password, and then Amy has the Foundation to be connected to the 7 secure server. But then out of nowhere, we were contacted by the Exalted Ice King himself, who wants our assistance to plant 3 monitoring devices at 3 locations on the island. Those 3 locations being New Sanctuary, Painted Palms, and Dark Dominion. After placing 3 monitoring devices and heading back to Frigid Fortress, we then have to report to the Exalted Ice King on the 3 factions he wants to eavesdrop. Those 3 factions being the 7, the Elites, and surprisingly, the Dark Voyager, because it seems the Dark Voyager is not being trusted by the Exalted Ice King, because the Exalted Ice King is planning to betray the Dark Voyager once the showdown between him and the Foundation is over. So if you were to report the 7 to the Exalted Ice King, we then see a conversation between the Foundation and the Order, finding out some way to how to take down the Exalted Ice King. Then they can switch their focus onto the Dark Voyager and prevent him from collecting the 0-point shards. But if you were to report to the Elites to the Exalted Ice King, we then see a conversation between Jules and Elite Zadie, because it's revealed that Jules made her way to the Golden Coast after the Dark Voyager scans their stronghold to find a 0-point shard. Then Jules hopped a ride on the Dark Harvester and then made her way to the Golden Coast. But after finding out the Dark Voyager made an alliance with the Exalted Ice King, not only this was a threat to the 7, but also to the Elite and the Omniverse. And Jules decided to report this to Zadie about this alliance with the Dark Voyager and the Exalted Ice King. But if you were to report about the Dark Voyager to the Exalted Ice King, we then see a conversation between the Dark Voyager and his mysterious master. But unfortunately, we were unable to know the identity of his master, because all we heard was a bunch of garbles. So after finding that out, we were then contacted by the Foundation, who wants us to find his lost helmet and cape. That way, that the Order in hope can modify his suit to help him in the fight against the Exalted Ice King. We then were contacted by the Order, who wants us to interact with a holotable to decrypt a final message of the Imagined. After heading to a 7 outpost and interacting with the holotable, we then hear Amy telling us the Imagined status, that the Imagined has been deceased, telling us that the Imagined is gone. But then Amy plays the Imagined's final message. According to the Imagined's final message, we hear that the Imagined wants the 7 to remember what they're fighting for, not just for the 0 Point or the Omniverse or the island, but also us, the Looper. After hearing this final message from the Imagined, the Order will now keep this message from her sister in her mind, to now remember what she's fighting for. But then, we soon discovered that the Dark Voyager is no longer on the Golden Coast, alongside with the Dark Harvester, because it turns out the Dark Voyager we've been facing is no other than a holographic Echo clone of the Dark Voyager called the Dark Voyager's Echo. And the real Dark Voyager is now pursuing to find the last 0 Point shard. We then transition to Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 8 OG, where the Dark Harvester has made its way to OG's timeline and used its scanner to search for the final 0 Point shard. But then after, with no luck in finding the shard, the Dark Voyager then leaves. But it turns out he actually went to the right place, because he was not looking for the shard. It turns out he was looking for the vault that was underneath Loot Lake. So he came to the right place, but he came in the wrong time, because the vaulting event alongside with the volcano erupting hasn't happened yet. So he will return to Fortnite OG's timeline to see if the vault has officially been dug up, and the volcano will begin to erupt pretty soon. We then transition back to Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2, where we now have to decrypt the Origin's final message under the orders. After interacting with a holotable at 7 Outpost, Amy then begins to read the Origin status, saying that he's been lost to the Chrome, meaning the Origin is still alive. Then the Origin's final message begins to play by Amy. The Origin then reveals that he doesn't want to watch another world die by the hands of the Imagined Order, and he knows that they're going to win this fight. But if they lose, he'll see us in the other side. The Visitor Reality Unknown then asks the Order if the Origin was another fallen general, and the Order then responds by telling him that she knows they can't do this without him, but they must press on in order to stop the Dark Voyager and prevent him to find the last 0 Point shard. But then we transition to Fortnite Save the World, as the survivors from Save the World were then greeted by the Dark Harvester by the Dark Voyager, but in a very far distance. The Dark Voyager then sends drones to scan the area of Save the World to find the last 0 Point shard. With no luck, the Dark Voyager then begins to leave. But again, 2 survivors from Save the World's reality hitch a ride on the Dark Harvester, those 2 being Jess and Penny, who made their way to the Golden Coast to help us in our fight against the Dark Voyager by building a structure called Builder's Brigade in the outskirts of New Sanctuary. But then, we transition to Fortnite Reload, the Elite Stronghold, as it is revealed that the Dark Voyager went back to the Elite Stronghold to now do his second attempt to find the last 0 Point shard, as he finally found it at the Elite's armory. But the Elites were already prepared to attack the Dark Voyager, as turrets began to shoot at the Dark Harvester, but to no avail, as the Dark Harvester's shield protects it. And then the Dark Voyager then uses the Dark Harvester's tractor beam to get the final 0 Point shard. It destroys the entire armory, leaving a big destructive crater where the armory used to be. Knowing that he has finally found the last 0 Point shard, it began to go back to the Golden Coast. We then transition back to Chapter 7, Season 2, Showdown, as the Dark Harvester, alongside with the Dark Voyager, brought the last 0 point shard to Dark Dominion, as the Dark Voyager begins to lower the final shard with the other 3. And he also accidentally brought a piece of the Elite's stronghold to the Golden Coast. And when we went to the Elite's outpost and taught the Jules of what happened, she tells us that even though the Dark Voyager has taken the last 0 point shard, it even destroyed the fortifications to keep the shard safe. And now she wants us to investigate the Dark Voyager's true motives and intentions for the shards. So after doing some investigation of the 3 0 point shards that are currently on the Golden Coast, we then find 2 devices by going dumpster diving, and they said one word: rebuild 0 point, confirming that the Dark Voyager is planning to rebuild the 0 point alongside with his new ally, the Exalted Ice King. After finding out the truth, we then report this to Jules. She then finds out, by knowing this horrific truth, that the 0 point shards want to be whole again, and she can't stay neutral anymore, and wants to begin to call Hope and Jones to report them what just happened. And making sure she doesn't want to get humiliated again by the Dark Voyager, she then creates new cubic weapons and help us in the fight against the Dark Voyager, including the Exalted Ice King. We then had to find 5 audio logs scattered by Hope and Jones across the entire of the Golden Coast. 2 of them revealed that not only Jones is very concerned about the Elites, considering they're very violent forward, and asks Hope what her opinions are about the Elites, Hope seeks to trust them, even revealing that with Jules' new cubic weapons, they will turn the tides against the Dark Voyager. And when Hope and Jones began to discuss about the Dark Voyager plan to rebuild the 0 point, Jones then reveals that it takes a lot of energy to fully repair the 0 point. So the Dark Voyager must find a way to repair the 0 point. But then after finding the 5th and final audio log, it is revealed that Hope sees that this is now getting worse, and asking Jones if he has something up his sleeve. Jones then reveals that he does have something up his sleeve. Someone that he knows of. But then he reveals that she's dangerous, and Hope was asking if she's good dangerous or bad dangerous. And then Jones responds by saying that she's both, but he trusts her, and saying that the Foundation won't like this. But then Hope then responds by saying that if Jones trusts this mysterious person, then Hope will trust her, and asks him to bring her in. Which reveals that Jones was talking about Dr. Sloan this whole time. That Jones was still contacted by Sloan, but he never revealed where she was this whole time. We were then asked by the Order to decrypt a final message from the scientist this time, from a holotable at a 7 outpost. After going to a 7 outpost and interacting with a holotable, Amy then hesitates to read the scientist's status, revealing to us this is the same Amy who we haven't seen since Chapter 4, Season 1, Oathbound. Revealing to us that just like the Origin, the scientist is also lost in the Chrome, revealing to us that he's still alive as well. Amy then begins to play the scientist's final message, but then it turns out it is a very tragic message, as the scientist says that everything is his fault, that whatever happens to him, he deserves it, and he's sorry that he couldn't have done more. Amy then apologizes for not finding him. Then the Order then wants us to decrypt a message from the Visor Reality Zero. After decrypting the Visor Reality Zero's final recording, Amy then begins to read his status, and quite similar to the Origin and the Scientist, the Visor Reality Zero is also lost in the Chrome, meaning he's also still alive. But then the Visor Reality Unknown weirdly asked the Order if the original Visor had suffered. And then the Order then tells him that due to his line of work, she hopes it was quick and painless. And the Visual Unknown then responds by saying that everything that happens is always pays in pain and agony, which is weird for him to say that. Then the last 7 members audio recording that we must decrypt by the Order's order was the paradigms this time. After interacting with the holotable at 7 outpost, Amy then begins to read the paradigm status, revealing to us that the paradigm has sacrificed herself due to zero fusion, meaning that the paradigm is also gone as well. She then replays the paradigm's final message to us back in Chapter 3, Season 4, the Paradise event. That this is our fight now, that she done everything she could. And the Order then responds by her message, saying that they're sorry for doubting her this whole time, and that her sacrifice meant everything. But then, out of nowhere, Amy wants us to decrypt a holotable of another message about someone, which is kind of odd. After interacting with a holotable at 7 outpost, the Order then begins to know that they're the only members of the 7 left. And the Visual Unknown then responds by saying that it's for the best. But then Amy then reads about the singularity. And then the Order then interrupts her by saying that she's once an IO member, she would never help them. But then Amy then responds by saying that the singularity status is incoming, revealing to us that the singularity is coming to the Golden Coast. After the Visual Unknown really responds to the Order after finding out about the paradigm, sometimes fate is inevitable, which is kind of weird for him to say that. So, after finding this out, the final showdown between Team Foundation and Team Exalted Ice King was about to begin. As we make our way to a 7 outpost at the Battlewoods radio station in the outskirts of Dark Dominion. The Foundation then begins a plan to use himself as bait for the Exalted Ice King. That way they can destroy the shield from the Dark Harvester from the Visual Unknown's newest tech, known as the Shield Buster. But then, while Team Foundation was sneaking their way to Dark Dominion at Frigid Fortress, the Dark Voyager informs the Exalted Ice King that the Foundation has set a trap for him, meaning that we have a traitor amongst Team Foundation. Which doesn't really faze the Exalted Ice King as long as he can finally defeat the Foundation. Team Exalted Ice King alongside with the Dark Voyager then makes their way to Dark Dominion. While a bantering between the Foundation and the Exalted Ice King left of him using the Shield Buster, for some odd reason the Shield Buster then begins to malfunction, and the Exalted Ice King and his team have this advantage to attack. The final battle then ensues, but then the Foundation throws the Shield Buster at the Dark Harvester, destroying the shield, which allows us to use the Obliterator to destroy the Tractor Beam, and able for the 0-point shard to not be fused with the other 6. Then the epic battle between the Foundation and the Exalted Ice King has began, with the Foundation using a 0-point shard as a weapon, which didn't really sit right for Jones and the Dark Voyager because it was just out of nowhere. While the Foundation was getting the advantage, the Exalted Ice King then pulls up the Infinity Blade, and the two of them begin to battle, while the Foundation jokingly says, "Who brings a sword to a rock fight?" As their clash then begins to getting a tie, like a draw, the Exalted Ice King then used the full power of the Infinity Blade and split the ground of the island, which was insane. Then the Foundation and the Exalted Ice King's clash of the 0-point shard and the Infinity Blade unleashed a fury of Rift Butterflies. 0-point energy then disperses, allowing us to go through an astral projection situation and allowing both the Foundation and the Exalted Ice King to gain power from us. After gaining newfound power from us, the battle continues. which led the Foundation to almost gain his victory. But unfortunately, he didn't, as the Exalted Ice King then froze his foot, and then his hand, and then his entire body, which looked like he actually killed him. It was revealed that Team Ice King has won the showdown. And now the Ice King was victorious, finally beating the Foundation. But to end their agreement, the Dark Voyager then betrays the Exalted Ice King, killing him instantly, transforming to his final form known as the Voyager Unleashed. The Dark Voyager then begins to use the full power of the Zero Point with the Dark Harvester, unleashing a fury of different reality portals across the entire island. But then, out of nowhere, after losing contact with Jones, a Rift Butterfly then approaches us, speaking in an ethereal voice. But if you listen closely, you will hear this one word: find me. And then we got the Infinity Blade. Powering up the Infinity Blade and Jones telling us to end this, we then destroy the Dark Harvester once and for all. But then Jones and the Visitor Reality Unknown were trying to figure it out. How did this happen? How did their enemies were aware of this trap that they were setting up? Then the Dark Voyager approaches the 7 outpost. When Jones tries to attack him, it did nothing. Well, he asked the Visitor Reality Unknown to then help him. It turns out that the traitor amongst Team Foundation was the Visitor Reality Unknown himself, as he backstabs Jones. While Jones was just on his knees trying to figure out what just happened, while the Visitor Reality Unknown said that this was according to the plan, the Visitor Reality Unknown then unmasks himself, revealing to be no other than Geno himself. That's right, Geno is back. While Jones was surprised for Geno's return, Geno then sees other uses for the 7, but he doesn't see use for Jones, as he kicks him off the 7 outpost. And then the Dark Voyager then says, "What's your orders, Master?" Revealing to us that Geno is now the Master for the Dark Voyager this whole time. And now, we're on Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3, Runners. As we must now expose Geno's secret of him being the Visitor Reality Unknown, betraying all of us, playing us from both sides. Making sure to help the Order in hope to understand that this imposter of the Visitor is not our ally, but is Geno this whole time. So yeah, that was it. God, it was a big mouthful. With Geno's return now set in motion for Chapter 7 Season 3 Runners, things are now going to get interesting. And a lot more chaotic. So that said, thank you all so much for watching this story explain of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Showdown. Comment down below what your favorite things to do with Fortnite creativity, battling players, Fortnite Ballistic, Fortnite Reload. The final end for Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 8 OG, because the vaulting event will happen soon. Fortnite Save the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest map, the Elite Stronghold. Comment down below what your favorite moments in the Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Shoutout event. Final moments from Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2 Showdown. Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 8 OG. Fortnite Save the World. And Fortnite Reload's newest map, the Elite Stronghold. Comment down below what Fortnite theories you want to discuss and debunk, and I'm glad to make videos about them. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any videos from me. And I'll see all of you in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 Runners. Bye!